It's like a catchphrase now. Dogs are allergic to this, dogs are allergic to that, and it all comes down to their diet. It's almost like a inflammatory histamine response in the whole body. Their body is just filled with junk at this point, and you give them something and now their stomach's upset and they're itching, and you have to get back to basics and what dogs need to eat and feeding them healthy foods.
You're listening to the Soul Touched by Dogs podcast, the show for dog lovers who see dogs not as toys or tools, but wise souls worth our respect and care. I'm Anke Herman, and I'm your host.
Hello and welcome, Wendy. I'm super excited to have you here.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, I always ask the same questions to start with, so let people know where in this lovely world you're based and what's your business with dogs.
So I am in the United States. I am in a part of the country, the Midwest. I'm in Wisconsin. I just moved back home to Wisconsin from Arizona. I have lived all across the United States, but Wisconsin is home. And I have been involved in dog rescue, both medically and behaviorally, for 25 plus years.
Must have started really young then.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I started when I was pretty young, yes, and I started volunteering with a local shelter. And I always suggest to anyone wanting to know where to start in helping with animal welfare, starting your local areas. All shelters and rescues need help. They need help from everything: dog walkers, social media, anything like that. Even some of your local little rescues, they need fosters, sometimes temporarily for puppies or kittens. There are so many different ways people can help. Just reach out to your local areas first, and you can grow from there. It's actually medical rescue that got me interested in canine diet because of the things we see in rescue. So that's a big deal. And I do follow your podcast because you have some interesting people on there, and they do talk about diet and medical stuff. And I find all that very interesting.
Yeah, so do I.
Yes, it's very intriguing. And our pet food industry, unfortunately, is, not great. It's not great. So doing all the medical rescue, that really got me focused on, everything we put into our bodies as humans affects us. So that also affects the dogs. And if your dogs are just eating kibble, which is highly processed, that would kind of be the equivalent of us eating fast food every day, or fried foods, greasy foods, stuff that's highly processed that comes in a box and has a shelf life of 8 years. It's just not good. So you see a lot more. It's like a catchphrase now. Dogs are allergic to this, dogs are allergic to that, and it all comes down to their diet. It's almost like a inflammatory histamine response in the whole body. Their body is just filled with junk at this point, and you give them something and now their stomach's upset and they're itching, and you have to get back to basics and what dogs need to eat and feeding them healthy foods, healthy whole foods, not just kibble.
Right. Actually, but before we dive in there, you said a couple of times medical rescue. Can you unpack that a little bit? Like, what's the difference between normal rescue and medical rescue?
So, and it may be different in different parts of the world. Again, I'm in the United States. So sometimes there are dogs in shelters that are labeled, they'll label them like New Hope, or that they have severe medical needs, and rescues that have the funding or work with special vet clinics or have the experience will have to pull those dogs, because shelters here in the United States do not always have the funding to take care of like very strong medical cases. They can do basic stuff like spay and neuter, maybe some antibiotics, but not all shelters across the country have the ability to take care of a dog that has a broken leg, needs surgery, whatever it is. And I rescue, I do breed specific rescue. I did not always, but I do chow chow rescue. So a lot of times with that breed, you see entropion eyes, where the eyelids are so heavy it curls in. So the eyelashes are rubbing on the eyes, causing ulcers and all kinds of problems, can cause blindness eventually. So as I started getting into this, that medical rescue became a big deal. Shelters are not going to do entropion surgery on a dog. They're not going to do that sort of thing. So you look for fosters that can help like administer medications. Maybe the dog has a severe ear infection or the eye problem and they have to be monitored for several weeks. So that's kind of what medical rescue is. We're kind of specializing on finding correct foster homes that can give them the care they need, maybe somebody who works from home, and also the familiarity with the different medical problems that dogs can have that a shelter is not going to address. So that's what that is. That's the
Oh,
difference. Other
okay. So
dogs that
did you
are
have some
healthy,
sort of medical background that you kind of
no,
felt drawn to that,
no,
or like your
no.
own dog,
It's,
or like how did you get into that? Like it
it's
feels like the
fascinating.
tough cases, right?
It is harder cases because in general rescue will go into a shelter. These dogs are on a euthanasia list. A rescue will go in and pull them out and they'll go up for adoption. Maybe they'll go to adoption vets. Those dogs are healthy. They maybe needed to be spayed, neutered, shots, whatever, and then they go to a new home. Medical rescue, sometimes these dogs are in a home for months recovering before they can even be put up for adoption. So I got involved in that because I started fostering seniors because I just have a soft spot in my heart for the seniors. And a lot of times they do have a little bit more medical need. They need maybe a special diet, they need supplementation. You know, we need supplements sometimes as we get older for joint support or whatever it is. And I started to slowly get interested in the medical end of it. And a lot of it, just like with us humans, preventative, an ounce of prevention, you know? So again, what are you feeding them? What are you giving them? But I did start with the senior dogs, and some of them had more medical issues, and I just was fascinated with it. And they do take a little longer to get on the mend so they can go into a home and have a happy forever life. But that part of rescue, it takes longer. It's a little bit more heavy on your heart because sometimes you have a foster for longer. um, it's not for everybody, but I absolutely loved it. Absolutely love it.
So you fostered people, you fostered dogs that like that. That's how you started. Okay.
Yes,
I always wonder how people do it,
yes,
because
yes,
it's
yes.
yeah.
My first one of my first medical rescues was a chow that was partially blind and partially deaf. So he needed constant care. He had several eye surgeries. He had serious ear problems, and it was all from neglect. It was all from neglect. He was actually found in the desert outside of Las Vegas. He had been dumped and he couldn't see, and people were leaving food out for him, but they couldn't get to him to touch him. So he had to be trapped, and he needed a lot. That poor dog, he really had it rough. If you let a dog's ear infections go too long, and this was something I learned in one of my very first, associations with this, you let a dog's ear infections go too long, that ear canal gets all scarred up with scar tissue, and they do lose their hearing. It damages the eardrum, damages the ear canal. So he had very, very bad ear canals. They were just full of scar tissue because nobody had ever taken care of him. Again, that ounce of prevention, so in proper diet and things that help keep those bacterias away, the yeast out of there, and keeping him clean. Yeah, medical rescue absolutely is wonderful. You can see a dog in a shelter that looks like a little rat, like the hair is falling out. There's no hair on the tail. They just look terrible. And 3 or 4 months later, they have just blossomed into this happy, healthy dog with a shiny coat. It can happen. I
Wow.
love that.
I mean, that's obviously like that's the most, and I've seen pictures like these before and after. You think like you wouldn't even guess it's the same dog, right? It's
Right?
incredible. It's gorgeous. So obviously, like we kind of all know now that kibble is like the worst.
Oh,
So
it's
what do what should people do instead?
I I don't do raw. There are a lot of people that do raw food and have great success with it. I have anywhere from 4 to 6 dogs in my house at a time. So raw is a bit messy for me. That's just my preference. I do think it is a good way to feed. I do gently cooked foods and I rotate their foods. Like I don't feed them the same thing every day. Nothing on this planet eats the same thing every day. So let's not even go there. Let's not do that. Can you imagine eating kibble every day or eating dry cereal every single day, the same meal? I mean, are you getting everything you even need? So I rotate their proteins. I do gently cooked foods. So like boiled chicken, boiled turkey. I do some beef, a little lamb, and it's gently cooked. And I do use some herbs. Everything is always fresh. And I know that that may not be for everybody. I did a very beginner style cookbook for people who don't know where to get started. And it has like meal toppers, treats, things like that, that are limited ingredient. And I explain why I'm using what I'm using, what the benefits are of that. And I hope that it sparks people to start researching a little bit. I hope people are looking at what they're eating and then apply that to your dog. Your dog doesn't need the same exact protein every day. Maybe this week they need some fish, maybe some turkey. They don't have to have the same thing every single day.
And I mean, it makes so much sense to me, but I think, and I don't know whether that's the same in the US and whether that's changed, but I remember when I first got my first dog, Leo, and that was like, well, over 20 years ago. And I found him in the street, right? So I was like, oh, okay, I've always wanted the dog. Now I've got a dog. Now what do we do, right? So I went to the vet, and I said, like, okay, he was 4 months old. What do I feed him? And the vet said, and you're probably your skin's gonna crawl. The vet said to me, he says, "Oh well, you need to make sure you give this dog everything they need. So here is our like, don't buy the cheap kibble in the supermarket, right? Buy our expensive one,
Of
right?
course.
So buy our expensive kibble. It's specially formulated for puppies, and don't ever give him anything else."
Yeah.
Like, don't give
That's
him, So it's like, I think that's often where people struggle with approaches like this, where because it's
absolutely.
like
Yeah.
your vet
Because
tells you, and I believed it initially, and then he didn't do
I
well.
did
He
too.
didn't eat well, and fortunately, he didn't do well on it. He had rashes, like, don't even want to talk about the poop, and I was always struggling to get him to even eat.
Yes.
And that's when I started researching. And fortunately, he didn't do well. So I really, really early on caught on, like, no, 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 we're not doing that, right? And I found a book, and it was like, oh, right. So, but like, if he had had a more robust stomach in that way, you know, it's like you
Mm-hmm.
don't really like, if your vet tells you this is what you're supposed to do, then like, it's hard to, and I kind of see that a lot of people are like, oh yeah, but the vet says, why should I trust you over the
Yes,
vet?
they're the
And
professionals. They have a degree and we don't.
yep, yep.
Um, so you trust them. But vet nutrition, and I don't know if that's become a thing where you are, but vet nutritionalist has become an actual job and a degree
Mm,
here now, where you
yeah.
can go see an actual dietitian for a dog, and they're not usually pushing the kibble, but
Yeah,
the regular vets here still do. They push the kibble. You
yeah,
need to give them this kibble or that kibble. And a lot of them are made by the same companies. The standard for the foods are terrible. I could talk about
yeah,
that for hours. It's just really shameful. What a waste. They basically are taking waste meat and rendering it down. And
yeah.
sometimes the sanitary conditions, a lot of these factories are fined, and we don't hear about it unless it's really, really bad. It's bad. We don't
Always
hear about
bad.
it.
Yeah. Mm,
Really, really, really bad. And then we hear about it, which it should never come to that. It should
yeah,
never come to that. But your curiosity started the same way mine did, because you
yeah,
have a dog that is not thriving, and
yeah.
you don't understand why. Now, some people don't ever question it, and they continue to go to the vet, and they layer pills on top of diet, and the dog never really gets fully better. And
Mm,
you can change that. You can change your dog's health with their diet. You for sure can.
yeah.
And I know you've had guests on that have said the same thing.
That's right. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah.
It's becoming a bigger topic, and I'm so glad.
I'm glad too. I'm glad too that more people are talking about it. So what like, obviously, yeah, you were saying like, oh yeah, raw gets messy with the many dogs, because I think that's the next kind of thing, the concern people have,
Yes.
where it's like, okay, what is doable,
Yes.
lifestyle
Yes.
wise, right? So where's the sweet spot between what's good for the dog and what can I pull off, right? So, and I've done the whole thing, like I've cooked daily, and then I've had, like, there was, you know, like, and there's frozen, and then I remember, like, that I always had to go who knows where, and it was kind of a pain in the butt. And then, and then I found, like, there was one that was like sort of free, that was dried, and you just, with water, you'd bring it back to
Yes.
life, kind of
Yes.
thing. And they basically said, oh, that's so much better. But it's like there's so many different versions around. In your
Yes.
experience, like, why have you chosen the way you've chosen? And so, like, say if you cook for them yourself, what's the the difference, or why have you chosen that over, let's say, something frozen or something else?
Good question. And my answer is going to be histamine levels. I suffer with histamine intolerance, which I think a lot of people do because our foods are so processed. Now, if you start to research how meats are cooked and what that does to the histamine level, sometimes the longer meats are cooked, like let's say barbecue. I love barbecue. Barbecue is slow cooked, long time. Histamine levels go way up. Um, that changes it. So how something is cooked changes the histamine level. So now you look at kibble, which is highly processed and cooked forever and over, that's terrible. There isn't a lot of research out to tell you how much histamine is in kibble, but dogs do get inflammatory responses and lose hair and get rashes. So a lot of people will say now, because this is a common catchphrase when you go to the vet, my dog's allergic to chicken. I just want to scream every time I hear that. Your dog's probably not allergic to chicken. It's highly unlikely. But chicken kibble has been cooked so much, the histamine level's higher. And then people will sometimes, oh, let's throw it in the slow cooker, because everybody's looking for an answer. Why is my dog not healthy? And they're trying, some of them are trying different things. I've tried different things. You've tried things. Slow cooker. That's cooking it a long time, real slow. Histamine levels go up. You boil a piece of chicken breast and the histamine level is very low. Now, chicken and turkey, both of them are bird, but chicken is considered a warm meat. The body heats up more to like process it through the body. Turkey is a cool meat. So if you look at Eastern medicine, you have like foods that are considered hot and cold. So anything hot is going to make the inflammatory response in the body higher, faster. So histamine levels, all those things have created what I do with my dogs now, which is not, I don't do raw. Again, I have too many and it gets very messy. But the gently cooked, and I'm considering what those ingredients are, what the histamine levels are, and what the body's response to that is. And I don't have any dogs with skin issues. And actually the breed that I rescue, they can be prone to like hot spots, fungal infections, skin, yeast, all that kind of stuff. And I don't have any of that ever. And their joints are great. They're happy, healthy. I have a 13-year-old that every time I've taken him to the vet, I just got a new vet because I just moved back to Wisconsin. And I always get the same comment. Are you sure he's 13?
Wow.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure he's 13. So that's kind of how I came to the process of gently cooked foods. Now, they do get a little bit of raw stuff sometimes when I was getting farm fresh eggs, which again, I'll get chickens here at some point and I'll have farm fresh eggs again. Raw egg here and there. But mostly it's gently cooked just because that is a little bit easier for me. And I am, again, looking at histamine levels and the response in their body to things. So that's how I got to where I got.
Okay.
And then
So
also
gently cooked,
gently,
gently cooked. Does that mean like a short time, or does it
yeah,
mean like lower temperature, or like what does gently cooked
it's
mean?
a short time. It's a short time. So like the difference between putting a chicken breast in a crock pot for 4 to 6 hours or boiling it for 15. It's fully cooked, but it was cooked quickly and
Yes.
gently. So I'm not sticking it in the oven. I'm not frying it in a pan, boiling. You can take ground turkey meat and boil that in water, skim off the fat. And now and it just crumbles apart and you can mix that, mix that in with, if you want to do like some sweet potato or something. And it's wonderful for them.
Sounds delicious. It's like I want it.
Their food is you could eat it. There's nothing in it that a person can't eat. I use curly leaf parsley sometimes. It's great for their breath and it's anti-inflammatory. So sometimes I'll dice up some fresh parsley, not the flat leaf. Don't use that. That one's toxic. The curly leaf, I'll throw that in and mix it up, and they get some of that and they love it. They love mealtime. They absolutely love it.
Wow, wow. So that's, I mean, so they get like some meat and then like some sweet potatoes or something like that
Yeah,
together. So that's
maybe
not
some veggies.
yeah.
Sometimes I'll throw a little quinoa in there. I don't really do rice, not very
Mm.
often. Um, Quinoa is pretty popular. They seem to like that. Popular, I mean by what they like to eat. They'll eat
Yeah,
rice too. Rice really is, the nutritional value just isn't there. So,
yeah.
and it's funny because my dogs are big. They're from like 60 to 80 pounds. They don't eat that much food. and none of them are underweight, none of them are overweight. If your dog has really large, smelly stool, it's their food. There's too
Yeah.
much garbage in that food. It's like if you eat a lot of garbage, it all comes out.
Yeah.
So a lot of times dogs that are just on a kibble diet, they're eating like 3 and 4 cups of kibble a day for a dog the size I have, and they just have massive amounts of waste. And my dogs are eating, it's nutrient packed, so they don't have those kind of problems. There's not the tummy upsets and the smelly,
Yeah.
stinky stool and all that. So they have to eat less, which is nice. And the mess isn't gross, which is nice.
Especially when you have a lot of them, right?
Right. Or if you have to walk them and you have to,
Yep,
bring
yep.
your little bags and stuff, it's nice when it's not gross.
Yeah.
We've all
And
experienced that.
I
It's
mean,
not
and
good.
I've seen the difference with Leo, like when he was on the expensive vet,
Oh, yeah.
like, oh my God, like he almost killed everyone in the car
Yeah.
once. Like his
It
kid
makes
fart.
gas and it just smells so bad. Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing like dog gas. Oh, give me a break. So terrible.
Yeah, the
Not
poor thing literally like I was like, yeah, anyway, it was just hilarious. I mean, it's like, oh my God. I was like, I was driving and I'm like, oh God, I thank God I didn't pass out.
I know it's so bad. It's so much worse. But then you think, what would
And the
happen to my
moment I changed his food, that all went away
yes.
instantly. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? It's so simple. And I know like with what I do and why I did my little book just to give examples of things that I do. It it is simple. It's a simple fix, but I think people get very intimidated because again, like what you said, the vet told me I should give
Yeah.
them this every day. And they're just trusting that. But just like you have to advocate for yourself or maybe a loved one when you go to doctor's appointments, think the same way about your dog. Ask questions and use discernment. You have to really think about it. Should my dog really eat that every day? And now they have smelly gas? Like there
Yeah.
must be something wrong.
Yeah.
So,
And I
yeah.
remember like the first time, when I started looking, I found this little booklet and it said basically, well, the first thing you want to do is like take your kibble bag and turn it around and stop looking at the cute puppy at the front, like read the ingredients, right? And
Yes.
just look at what's actually in there and you're gonna probably throw up anyway and not want to,
Oh yeah. You see
so and
things
that
like
was like very,
byproduct, meat byproduct. What
that's
is
right.
that?
Yeah.
That no,
Yeah.
nobody should eat that.
Yeah.
It's rendered down junk, basically. It's not like good cuts of meat. It's rendered down junk. Um, and I use fresh. I don't use anything canned. If I'm gonna put some carrots into their food, I grab some fresh carrots and I just grate them up and there you go. Got some carrot in there. Same thing with the
Yeah.
sweet potato. You're just using something fresh and it doesn't have to be cooked to death, in a fryer or in a crock pot or the oven for hours and hours. It should be much simpler than that. It's probably how I should be eating.
Good one.
So they probably eat better than I do. Yeah,
So
it's very,
do you cook then every day or do you
yeah.
batch it for the week
Well,
or how do you do
I
it?
do batch it. I do batch it. I will, it depends. Usually if I make something, because I have 4 right now, I can make a batch of food that will last like 3 days in the refrigerator, and then I can just take some out. If I want to do ahead of time, like if I know I have a really busy schedule coming up or traveling, I can make stuff and freeze it and then pull it out as I need it if my schedule's gotten too hectic. Anything to avoid feeding them just regular dog food.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
I
you
mean,
can
and
batch.
that makes sense, right? To just
Yeah,
basically do meal prep like we do for ourselves,
yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah,
I probably do more meal prep for them than I do myself. And I keep things on hand like some Greek yogurt, pumpkin, that's like an essential. And I can keep those in little containers in the fridge and just here's a scoop of this, here's some of that. If I notice somebody maybe was getting bored with their food and my dogs are so used to a rotation, they do get bored with something. If
mm,
I was making too much with turkey and they just all of a sudden they didn't want it, you've got to rotate those proteins around. You got to rotate the food a little bit. The same thing every day is no good. So then I gave them, we switched back over to some chicken, and I was doing some beef, and they were very excited about meals again. And I'll be switching back to turkey again here pretty soon, maybe some sardines or something. They do love their fish too, which is great with the omegas. It's so good for their joints. So that's a good one to throw in there.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it sounds delicious. Getting hungry. But when you like cook it, like you do let it cool though. Like they're not gonna,
Yes.
like
Yeah,
because like mine
it's
don't like warm meals. Like,
no, it's never hot. If it's a little warm, they don't seem to mind. Eggs, if I throw them in there raw, they don't, they're usually just from the counter because I'm getting farm fresh eggs, not from the store. If I do any eggs and I cook them a little bit like over easy, my husband likes to do that. He calls it daddy breakfast. He gives them an
oh,
over easy egg on top of everything. I can't even look at it. It kind of grosses me out. I don't like over easy eggs, so that's his breakfast that he does for them, and they get excited about that because he does that maybe once a week for them. So
so I think that almost like there's a question that came in like recently around the topic where somebody kind of wrote to me, it's like, oh, like this is all really interesting, and I'm worried about the transition, right?
mm, yeah,
So if they've had kibble for X amount of time or all their lives, like, can you just like, okay, from today on, we're eating better food, or do you need to
I
kind of go slow?
I would go slow. So because it's going to be such a shock to their system from eating just that dry processed food. So I would start slow, maybe cut their kibble down 2 3/4 of what they normally eat for a week, and add some type of gently cooked food. If you want to add, maybe throw a raw egg on there one day, and maybe a little bit of boiled chicken breast that you've diced up, and slowly work that kibble out of the system. And you can also look at supplements. There are powder supplements. I use specific kinds to add any sort of nutrients that you're worried, certain vitamins that they may need. You can find supplements to add in if you feel like you're nervous about making sure that they're getting the vitamins that they need. You can definitely add a powder supplement. Your dog's not even going to notice if you put boiled chicken breast on top of it. They're just going to eat it. It's not going to matter. But yeah, I would go slow. I would slowly
Yeah.
cut that kibble back and slowly start adding things. And it might take a little while, but your dog is going to love their meals. They're going to absolutely love it. But yes, it will be a little bit of a shock to their system.
Actually, talking about loving their food, I've had that with Leo, and it was actually a bit of a challenge initially when, when he had, got his vet kibble for the first few weeks, and he was like, and I will literally like kind of constantly like encourage him to even eat, the
Yeah.
like what, on the pack it says, well, they should eat like whatever 2% of their body weight, whatever, and I really struggled to get him to eat that, right?
Mm,
Well, the moment I started cooking for him, he had no end.
yeah. No
Like it
problem.
was like, how do I know how much to feed him now? Right? Because that was a problem almost like because before he just didn't have the appetite. So the challenge was to get him to eat. But all of a sudden, when he got real food, he was just like, he was just crazy.
Yeah.
And he
And
would
real
not, and it was really hard to find like, okay, how much to feed him because it was clearly more than he ate on the, but it's like, how do you know? Like, how do you figure out what your dog actually needs versus okay, now they just love their food too much and eat too much?
that is a little bit more complicated. So with kibble, yeah, they'll give you a measurement. Give like with my dogs, it would be like 3 cups of kibble a day, which is so much more than they. I remember when I transitioned them, they were each getting towards the end a half cup of kibble twice a day, and then some meal toppers on top, and some supplements, and they were fine. And what I did was I kind of there's no science behind this. I was eyeballing it, and my dogs, like I said, they're not overweight, they're not underweight, they are sitting just right. You have to remember that when you're supplementing their food with real whole foods like protein, like chicken breast or turkey or something, there's way more protein in that than in the kibble. So they don't need as much. They just don't need as much. You don't, you're used to giving your dog a food bowl with a mound of kibble. They don't need all that if you're feeding them real food. They just don't. And people are worried, like, oh, it's going to be so expensive. It's not, because the kibble is expensive and they're just blowing through it. So I kind of had to gauge their weight and then what percentage of protein they needed, like, maybe 50, 60%, protein, get some protein in there. And I'd say if I had to measure it in a cup, if my dogs were to get a cup and a half of food twice a day for their weight, when I'm doing whole foods, it's closer to like a cup of protein, a cup of, protein with maybe some sweet potato, carrots, maybe some green beans in there. If your dog gets overweight, green beans are a great thing to add because there's no calories and it fills them up and it'll help them stay on their diet. So you have to just kind of take into consideration when you are feeding whole foods that there is way more protein in it. So lower it. And you can actually, there are some charts online that tell you like how much, like the percentage of protein for the weight of the dog and all that. You can, easily look something like that up for your specific dog. Just try not to overfeed. Go slow, because they'll gobble it up. They'll eat more and more and more and more.
Yep, yep. No, that was a real problem, to
Yeah.
actually find that balance, because all of a sudden his appetite had like just no limit anymore.
Yeah, like, holy cow, you're giving me
Yep,
a steak, like
yep, yep.
it's amazing. They just want to eat it all up. So I do measure their food. And I've just gotten it. Now I can eyeball it because each of my dogs are within 20 pounds of each other. So my male does get a little bit more food than the girls do. But, in the beginning, that was kind of a struggle too, finding that happy medium, slowly weaning the kibble out. And now they don't get as much food. They just don't need it, which is great. I mean, that's wonderful. But yeah, that is a bit of a transition. But there are charts online. I wish I had one in front of me to tell you the exact percentage, but it's a percentages of protein for their body weight. And, if your dog is super active, they may need more food. Mine are they're lazy. Mine are lazy.
So where can people get in touch with you? Because if somebody goes like, oh my God, like and I find like the feedback I've gotten from like similar conversations has always
Yeah,
been like, oh my God, like that makes so much sense. And I'm like people are kind of worried about the changes, right?
they
To
are.
kind of, because
It's
to not,
intimidating.
yeah, because I mean, first of all, you kind of feel, I think the piece of it is the piece about it, and that's why I'm just so happy to have you on and have that conversation, because it is people, because you know what it's like when you go against the recommendation of the vet, now you're on your own,
And
right?
if anything goes wrong, it's your
That's right.
fault. You feel
And
terrible.
so, but you're on your own now. So, and there's like, okay, who can I ask? And so
Yeah.
that's why it's like, I think it's important to kind of make that
Yes.
information available to people, and, get those questions answered. Because the
Yeah.
thing is, like, to be honest, like, I'd be more likely to experiment on myself, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
because I know it's like, oh no, but then with the dogs, I'm more
I
careful,
can't.
because
The dog
they're
can't
not
do
going to tell me, it's
Yeah.
going to be harder to find out if I'm on the wrong path. And
Hmm.
so I'll be a lot more hesitant to try
Yeah.
something that I'm not 100% convinced of, or not. So I find people are like quite hesitant when it comes to
Absolutely.
changing their dog's
And
diet.
I'm always happy to talk to people. Wendy Chow Brown. I am on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. I have Pinterest boards, and I have a website, which is www.wendychowbrown.com. You can email me through there. You can message me on any social media platform. I am always happy to help. There are a ton of groups online, also on Facebook, for learning how to feed your dog. And there is no set standard like, oh, you have to do this, because everybody that goes on this journey of researching this, their dog is at a different spot of weaning them from the way they used to feed to a new way, and also for the owner to feel comfortable doing and being able to do. So everybody's in a different spot in their journey on this. So if you join some of those groups as well and you're a beginner, you're going to learn a lot. And I am always happy to answer any questions when somebody messages me. I get messages about things like hot spots, or my dog keeps getting a rash and is so itchy. There are so many different things you can try. And I am always happy to answer anybody's questions, because it is scary when you first start. You're going against the grain, and it's okay.
That's right.
I am here to hold your hand.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And we'll obviously pop the
Thank you.
details. They're going to be right below here. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing this, what I think is like a crucially important message.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. I love your show.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review so other dog lovers can find the show. Head over to soultouchedbydogs.com and sign up for the weekly treat. Tips, recommendations, and personal stories to warm your dog-loving heart. And if you know a awesome human you think I should interview, I'd love an introduction. Email me at Anke, that's ANKE, at soultouchedbydogs.com.